Welcome to Riverside Country Club. I'm Mike Malaska, and welcome to Malaska Golf and this live video cast that we're doing here. This is all about my 50th anniversary, the 50th year since I won the tournament here. So again, we're here at Riverside Country Club. I mean, look at this place. I mean, again, it's like I talk about golf and the facilities that we go to and everything. But for me, this course has a lot of history, but the 50th anniversary is a big deal. I mean, 50 years ago, I won this tournament as an amateur, and it had been years and years since anybody had done that. And it was at Ogden Country Club, which was the club that I played at, was my home course in college. And so this tournament was basically my birth into professional golf, or to believing that I could actually play golf as a career, because the last round I played with two tour players, and pretty handily. I mean, during the round, it was pretty interesting. I never really played with any tour players, and I'm watching them and I'm thinking, well, jeez, I can beat these guys. So this tournament was huge for me as far as a birth into golf. And it basically opened up a whole new concept of what I was going to do for my life. You know, now it's kind of this Saturday or Sunday when I play the last round here, it's going to be kind of a rebirth to a new life for me in golf and competitive golf relative to the Utah Open and all that. I mean, these kids now, I mean, I can't really compete against them. I can make the cut. I can maybe win the senior part. But the tournament itself, I mean, it's time. I mean, I've played in it probably 50 times over the 50 years. I missed a few years, but I played in it 2 or 3 years prior to me winning it. And when I started the Utah Open, they used to play at different country clubs around the valley. And so my first Utah Open was at Willow Creek, which is a country club here in town. And the second one was at Hidden Valley, which was a course I ended up working at, spent a lot of time at. And then the third one was at Ogden Country Club. And then the fourth, it was here. And then the tournament basically would cycle through the Salt Lake Country Club, Willow Creek, and these clubs. And they'd just go through this like 5 to 6 year cycle. And then about 10, 12 years after I'd started playing, they decided to just put it at one club. So they put it at Willow Creek. It was there for a number of years, probably 5, 6, 7 years. And then Willow Creek picked up a tour event, or what's called a web.com or a Nike tour event. And so then the Utah Open kind of jumped around for a while. And then Riverside picked it up here. And it's been the home side of the tournament for probably the last 6 or 7 years. And I don't know what their contract is in the future, but they've done such a great job. And for me, the Utah Open has always been coming back and revisiting my roots, coming back to Utah, friends. And the tournament for me has been big with the Special Olympics. And when the Special Olympics started to get involved, I got involved doing clinics for them. And the kids were just incredible. I mean, and it was amazing how much they looked forward to it and how well they did as volunteers. And there was one particular young lady, her name was Denise, who about 3 or 4 years into me doing this, she came out one day and asked me for my autograph. So I had a hat, so I signed her hat. But then I took my hat off and I asked her to sign it. And she was all giggly. And so then she signed it and I took it and I said, "Oh, Denise, thank you so much. And in fact, is it okay if I wear your hat during the tournament?" So yeah. So from that went on for about 6 years. Every year she would show up with a different hat for me to wear. And and they never fit, but it was a lot of fun, and it really brought the kids into play. And the other thing that I did, and I will do tomorrow, or when I get started in the tournament, I bring a hat for the kids to sign their autograph on. Not me give them an autograph, because they're the heroes. They're the ones, I mean, the charities that golf provides for is absolutely incredible. So it's been a big part of my life. It started my life in golf. I've come back. I've finished second. I've played really well in it. You know, I've had a pretty good history here. But this is time to kind of say, okay, thank you so much, Utah Open, all the sponsors, all the people for starting me off in golf. And then now kind of saying, okay, let's go on to the next chapter, a rebirth in my life relative to what golf is. It's still going to be competitive. I'm still going to play. I'm still going to be involved in golf. And that's the marvelous thing about this game. And you think about it. You can start competing when you're 8 or 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 years old. Then 50, 60, 70, 80 years old, they're still playing and still competing and still having fun. I mean, that's why I teach also. It's to help keep all these people that can play or want to play in the game as long as they possibly can. So this is just this incredible opportunity. It's going to be a lot of fun for me. And I want to talk to you a little bit about Malaska Golf. So I want to make sure that you all go to Malaska Golf and make sure that you get involved or signed up for this event. And we're giving away a whole set of clubs, a bag, the whole thing, shoes, and a free lesson from me. So that's an incredible thing for you to be involved with if you're a member. So go in, and we're giving 50% away the entire month for memberships. So it's so insignificantly inexpensive. It's incredible. I mean, it's way less than you'd ever pay for one lesson. And the information on it is a lifetime that I've spent pulling up on that information. So again, Riverside, the club, you can kind of see where they're getting set up. They got some of the signs out, but I mean, look how spectacular this place is. So if you're ever in Utah and you're around and you have a chance, you can come down and play Riverside. If you can do it, because this is just a marvelous golf. A lot of fun to play. It's not going to kill you, but it's hard to shoot good scores on, as you'll see. But you'll see these kids, these young guys, it's incredible what they shoot now. So I'm just going to have a lot of fun playing. This for me is fun. This is reminding me of why I'm in golf. Competitively, for sure, I always want to play good. But this is more about just enjoying the relationships and everything that's happened in this Utah Open and what it's done for me over 50 years. So we're going to talk a little bit in this cast. We're going to talk a little bit about questions that people might have had on the site. I'm also going to introduce you to somebody that had a huge role in me even playing golf and put up with a lot of stuff early on that kept me involved with the golf course and kept me involved playing golf and took a big interest, him and his wife, and me playing. So we're going to talk about questions first. So when we start looking at questions that people have had, one of the biggest questions I keep getting is about grip. And I'm glad, because grip is such an important part of the game. And when you think about it, that club face, really, and this is how I think about golf, that club face is my hand. So that's how a club face fits in my hand. And if I want the ball to go lower than it's designed to go, I just take loft off. I want to hit it higher. I want to curve it left. I want to curve it right. Sits in my left hand like this. So here's low, here's high, here's left, here's right. Put both of them together. So basically what's going on is the club face is what you play the game with. The only thing that connects you to this is your hands. So I go crazy when I hear people talking about take your hands out of the golf swing. Now, I understand what they mean by that. What they mean is, myself and a lot of really good players, the better you get, once you get your grip on there, as you swing and you direct the momentum of the club at the ball, your hands are just reacting to the momentum of the club. So they feel quiet. I mean, that's a feeling. But the reality is you have to spend a lot of time training your hands and getting the club to swing in the right arc before that happens. Now, if you take somebody that doesn't have all those skills and you say, take your hands out of it, then it becomes one of these things. And yeah, you're not using your hands, which is your major lever system. I mean, there's where most of your speed comes from. So how you put your hands on the club is a huge, huge deal relative to how these joints are going to work. Now, I've played with multiple different grips, and I can do it because I've practiced a lot. But each time I change my grip, it then changes what my hands have to do to square the club face on the ball. So understanding that the grip is more in your fingers relative to what you would think in golf. There's my left hand. Club's in my fingers. It's right there. It's like if I was going to hit something like this with this part of my left hand, not the back of my left hand. I played that way. It killed me. I actually injured my wrist, had a lot of trouble with that. I got pretty good at it, but never as good as I was originally. So if you get your grip right, then the left hand becomes a stabilizer. And when you just swing the club and let the momentum of the club naturally unhinge your wrist, the club face squares itself. And then when your right hand in your fingers and your right palm's there, it just comes in and pushes the shaft, and then it just accelerates the shaft through the ball. So the grip is the most important thing, and it's probably the least practiced. Now, when I say practice, because I hear people say, well, make sure you have a good grip and then stay with it. Well, what's a good grip? So make sure and go on the website, go into the M system, look at what a good grip is and how it's put together. Because if your hands are not on the club correctly, then all of a sudden, half of the compensations that you see in your swings, over the top, throwing the club, that's not the problem. That's an effect of a grip that you have to do something to catch the face up. So that's one big question that we keep having as far as relative to how do I get that club face to work? The other big question, one of the big questions is that we're hearing is the over the top thing. So when somebody makes a swing, you know, over the top as they go back and they come out this way. Well, I'm going to keep relating these few questions back to grip, because what happens is if your grip's off and you take the club face back and you start down and the club face gets wide open, and then your right hand's here and you have to rotate your arms to square the club face. Here's what you got to understand about anatomy. If I take my right arm and I'm going to rotate my right arm, you see what my right shoulder does. Now, if I'm going to rotate my right arm, not only does my shoulder come out, my right hip comes out. It took me the better part of 2 years to learn how to get my right hand here and rotate my forearm and not have my right shoulder and my right hip move out, because it doesn't fit what's going on in the golf swing. So the over the top first is grip. The second part of over the top is what they call change of directions. Everybody's heard about the top. So there is no top in a golf swing. So everybody swings up here and tries to get up here and then start down. Well, when I throw a baseball or I hit a baseball or I hit a tennis ball, as the club's going back or the racket's going back, I start forward. So in a golf swing, it basically goes left, right, left, hit. Okay? Left, right, left, hit. It doesn't go left, right, hit and go to the left, which is where most people are. So it's about transition and it's about grip. Now, again, make sure 50% off from Malaska Golf this month, this entire month, for a year subscription. Plus, we got a bag, we got clubs, a putter, sand wedge, 360 shoes, and a lesson with me. We keep talking about that. So now we're going to go to another question here that we've got from part of the audience. Javier?
Scott Nichols.
Scott Nichols.
What are your views on thicker grips for bigger, stronger hands?
What are my views on bigger grips for bigger, stronger hands? These grips on me are what they call reverse taper mid-sizes. Now, in my opinion, I mean, it's a lot just comes into feel. What they've found from doing a lot of testing is they found if the grips were a little bigger, you would think that would, if the grip got a little too big, it would make people not use their hands correctly or would slow things down. What they found is that if you have a grip that's a little too big for you, a little big, what happens is your hands actually calm down. The smaller the grip gets, so if I go down here on this, down here, then people start gripping it tighter because it feels like they're going to get away from. Now, it's easier putting your fingers. So I would say for most people, now my hands are pretty big, and I've played around with mid-size and oversized, but the big key for me is this reverse taper. And what that means is when you take a club and it comes down to here, it has to taper. It's like the handle of a baseball bat where the club then gets pulled into your finger so you don't lose the club. But past here, from right there to right there, my grips are the same size. I never liked grips that tapered, where I felt like I had a little teeny grip in my right hand and a bigger grip in my left, because I'd been a baseball player. So that bat was pretty much the same size. I'd played tennis, it was the same. So it didn't make any sense why it would do that. So I would say, go to the store, get reverse tapers. They'll have them on clubs. Take the normal size, mid-size, and a bigger size, and just hold them in your hands and get a feel for what you feel the most comfortable with, and that's the one you use. Put it on one club. Go try it. See what it does for you. It's a lot of this golf game is a lot of experimenting around to find what really fits you. So that's a good question. Next question.
Can you talk? This one's from Airstrike Passing Academy.
Okay.
Hi, Mike. Can you talk about Joe Nichols' influence and his best drills for beginners and junior golfers? Thanks.
So this comes from Airstrike Golf Academy, and he wants to know about Joe Nichols, who was a big mentor of mine. And what impact and influence he had on me, which is dramatic. I mean, he taught me so much about the golf swing and how to compress a ball and all different things. And he cleared up a lot of confusion with me, and he got me being an athlete again. And so I kept going back. Every time I get in trouble, I'd go back to him. Very few people have heard of Joe, but there was an article written. I think you can go into the archives and look, and it was an article about the Roto-Rooter King. And he had a drill where you'd hit the ball. So you'd go back and you'd hit the ball and you'd rotor the club back. And that drill did so many good things. And a lot of tour players were using that drill. But he got coined as the Roto-Rooter man. And I tell you, he knew more about golf than pretty much anybody I'd ever been around to that point, relative to getting people to compress and hit the ball. So relative to drills that Joe did, one of the most important drills, teaching people how to use their hands and wrists. So Joe was really big on basically the same grip I'm using now. But he'd get you set up, and then he'd have you hinge the club, then swing the club back, and then hit the ball. So he wanted you to lever your wrists first and get your hands set where you wanted them in the transition. So for kids, to have them lever the club, so they've already got it levered up, and then they swing back and hit, all of a sudden you get their wrists working correctly. You show them how to do this so their wrists work correctly. Then they do that, hold it, and make a swing, and then they can start swinging the club back and start to feel how it's supposed to work. The other thing for kids is to have them make swings, and L-tail's not my drill, that was Joe. So you take the club and you lever the club up, you hit the ball and lever the club up over here. So you're just standing there almost flat-footed, swinging the club back and forth, lever it up, hitting off a tee. So those two drills relative to juniors, probably the best, because it starts to teach them, here's your grip, here's how your hands work. And then let's put that into a motion. So I hope that really helps. I'm sure it will. And he was a big influence on me. Okay. So here's what we're going to do now. I think I told you a little earlier. If I didn't, I've got a special guest here today. And I'm going to have to reset the stage a little bit. But when I started golf, you know, I really wasn't a golfer. I was a local kid with a little 9-hole golf course close to my house that I used to go down and fish in the lake, get balls out of the lake, sell them to people, jump the fence and play 1 or 2 holes, and we were sleeping out at night. And finally, I got caught doing that and started to get more involved in golf. And I ran into who was the green superintendent at Nibley at the time. So, Mark, come on in here. So, Mark, welcome.
Nice to see you.
Nice to see you. Now, Mark Ruff was his green superintendent, but Mark's been, that's ridiculous. I mean, Mark's like a big brother, like a father. His wife, Margie, they were such instrumental people in keeping me involved in golf when I'd had kind of a troubled childhood with some things. And he gave me my first job at Nibley. So I'm going to grab a couple of chairs here. We're going to reset this setup a little bit, and we're going to get back to some more questions later. So, first, there you go.
Great. Thank you.
Now I got to make a couple little changes here. All right, Mark.
50 years ago.
50 years ago. So here I am 50 years ago. I had the long blonde hair. I had the whole cut across here, the aviator glasses. This was my look. So I just thought I'd put this on to kind of spur up some memories with Mark. So have a seat there. I can't believe I put up with this. Okay, so Mark, first of all, I want to thank you and Tom and everybody at Nibley and your wife and all the people that took a kid and believed in him and gave him a chance on a golf course. which in my opinion is one of the best places to grow up.
It was great. Yeah.
So I want to thank you for that. And then, do you remember the first job you gave me when you hired me on the maintenance crew at Nibley?
Yeah, I think it was mowing fence lines. We had a lot of fence lines with a lot of trees, and it was a lot of hand work.
Exactly.
Not a lot of fun.
Well, you know, I kind of liked it, but I got into it about 50 yards and I hit the first pipe and I blew the engine out of the thing. And I thought, there's no way he's going to let me do it. And he just said, no, okay, give me another mower, sent me out. I don't know how many mowers I blew up doing that fence line, but it was quite a few.
Yeah, but it was a good learning experience for you.
It was. And I, you know, I enjoyed, I think what that did for me is being on the golf course, on the maintenance crew. It gave me a respect, I think, for golf. It gave me a respect for what it took to maintain a golf course. And it was just, it was quite the environment. So I would encourage, and I'm sure you would, kids or young people that have a chance that they can get on a maintenance crew at a course, it'd be well worth it.
Yeah, it would. I mean, I started out as a night waterman, worked my way through college, working on the course, and then became a superintendent from there and spent my career doing that. And it was a great career. And I had a lot of young kids that came to me that have gone on to a lot of different things, but I think it instilled a real hard working ethic in doing what they were doing.
Yeah.
And they had a lot of fun doing it. And I still see a lot of them today.
Oh, no, I kid about it all the time. I tell my wife, which she thinks I'm crazy, but she's always thought I'm a little crazy. And I guess doing what I'm doing, I've been crazy. I said, you know, the best time I had really in golf was when I was working on the maintenance crew at Nibley and Mountaindale, out there mowing greens and fairways and cutting cups and setting tee markers and just being out, just taking care of the golf course.
Yeah, it was fun. And you actually had an influence on me too, because as a player, a young player coming up with the way golf courses were being maintained, there was a transition period going on at that point in time. And I remember the first time you talked me into mowing the tees down, using the hand mowers and raising them up to mow the tees down, instead of using the gang mowers to mow the tees with.
Of course.
And that was back in the early 70s. And so, you know, I learned a lot from that, and things really took off from there. I mean,
well, I was going to make Nibley, if I was going to play there, I was going to turn it into Wingfoot West. I mean, and again, if any of you get in Utah and you have a chance, go play Nibley. It's unbelievable. That place is just incredible. A little 9-hole golf course, par 33. It's amazing. Again, reminder, 50% off Malaska Golf this whole month for an annual subscription. We're giving away a whole set of clubs for members, shoes, and a free lesson with me. I mean, it's an unbelievable thing. And if you're just joining, make sure you look in the description below and do what you need to do to get signed up for that. And I can't believe that I dealt with this hair. I'm sitting here going, and I used to like it because I used to like to flip the hair out of my eyes, and I'm not quite sure. Anyways, I'm going to play, by the way, I'm going to play with this wig on the second day. So kind of as a whatever. And I'll play with it until I make a bogey.
okay.
So let's talk about Nibley again. So I remember very shortly into me actually being able to, where you allowed me to, you know, cut the greens with the mowers and do stuff, that you let me do the gang mowers as long as I was doing the rough, because there weren't any sprinklers there. And then one day you got sick, and I decided that can't be too hard to just run that freaking gang mowers right down the middle of the fairway. So I strapped on the gang mowers and took off, and
I came into work the next morning, and somehow you had repaired them. But apparently you knew that you were supposed to get on the valve line first so that you didn't hit any of the sprinkler heads. And you not only hit one, after you hit that one, you hit the next one. But I will say that you took it under yourself to go out and get them fixed. You had to shut the water off, do everything, and you had them fixed, and they were ready to go the next morning.
Well, I'm glad that you showed me. I mean, a lot of playing the golf course too is learning how to fix sprinklers and this and that and the other. But it was the most incredible, because I'm out there thinking, okay, I got this gang mower. People, you have no idea the art form, what it used to be to pull gang mowers and make the wheels miss the sprinkler heads that stuck up. And, you know, I'm going along thinking I'm pretty good, and I think I'm going to miss the first one. I kind of let the gas off, and the wheel catches the thing. 60, 70-yard geyser in the middle of the fairway. And I'm sitting there looking at it thinking, oh, my gosh. And I start to turn, and the front wheel hits the next one. So I got two big geysers in the middle of the fairway. And, of course, I fixed them. And you know, and that was, I mean, I have so many good memories working on the maintenance crew there. It's just incredible. And again, thank you for putting up with that on that time for a kid that was probably a little not technology, but challenged relative to not breaking things.
Right. Well, but it was good having you there and staying with me for the time you stayed with me before, while you were going to college, you'd come back and
Oh,
work
yeah.
and
In the
and
summers.
in the summers and do that. And it was great. And then when you turned pro, even before that, even when you were an amateur, I got the opportunity to caddy for you.
Well, no, I had the opportunity of you caddying for me. I mean, so let's talk a little bit about that. So we got started, you started doing caddying and amateur tournaments for me. Now let's talk about the Utah Open, because that's what this is all about.
Right.
So you knew my game. You'd watched me play. I'd been playing really well that summer. So we're coming up. We put 3 really good rounds. I think it was 70, 69, 69 or something like that. So you're driving up. I know you had to go to Nibley to cut the greens and change the cups before you came up to caddy for me.
Right.
Okay, so coming up there and getting there and then on the range, exactly, I mean, what did you think my chances were?
Well, I thought you had a really good chance. I mean, you'd won the Utah Junior Open the week before. You were striking the ball very well in the first 3 rounds. Watching you on the range, you were hitting the ball really solidly on the range. It was a matter more of your swing was so good and the mechanics were so good that once you got going on it, there was not going to be a problem. It was the mental aspect of it. Did you get to the point where you didn't think you could win?
Right.
And, you walk off and you birdie the first 2 holes and I'm going, okay, he's got this. He knows what's going on. He's hitting it really solid, but as long as he doesn't get out there. But the funny thing is you kept asking me what another player was doing, another amateur was doing.
Yeah, you can say Jimmy Blair.
Jimmy Blair was there, and you guys had been playing against each other for a long time as amateurs. And you kept asking me, where's Jimmy? Where's he at? Because you were so wanting to beat Jimmy and be the low amateur.
Well, see, I think that was a lot of the reason. I mean, there's a couple of reasons. First, the article in the morning paper on Sunday said I virtually had no chance. And then at that time, I hadn't played a lot of big tournaments. And the biggest tournament in the state relative to an amateur winning the amateur trophy was the Utah Open. And so I know I had like a 6, 7 shot, 8 shot lead on Jimmy coming into Sunday. And I really wanted to make sure I won the amateur part. And I really think that not being too distracted about things and really not feeling like that I should win. I felt like I could. And in fact, I told you on the 3rd fairway, if you remember, I just striped 2 birdies, striped my tee shot. I'm standing in the middle of the fairway. We had a little wait, par 5, and I'm standing there and I said, Mark, these guys can't beat me.
That's right. Yeah, I remember that.
And that was kind of a bad thing. I hit a good shot there, but that I kind of got a little too complacent. And I was way ahead of the amateur and anybody. And I played that par 5. I 3-putted it, made par, and I went to the next tee, which could have been a disaster because I didn't pay much attention, which, people out there, when you're playing golf, you can't ever assume the game's over till it's over, and you always have to take into account the things you have control of. So I set up on the wrong side of the tee, on the right side of the tee, and I didn't even think. And there's a big tree there that, like you said, right. I mean, it's still there. I played it the other day.
The OB's really close.
And the OB's close. I wasn't even looking at it. And I just stand up there, hit it, and I just clipped the edge of the tree, and it ricocheted the ball. Good thing it ricocheted it to the left. But we ended up making bogey. And then I 3-putted the next hole, made a couple of bogeys, and then made a par. And then I don't know if you remember, but the par 5, I pulled my tee shot way left. Right. And we had a shot where I could have just hit it back in the fairway. And instead, I took that old forward out, and I hit this big high cut shot up around, and we got it up on the front edge of the green. That shot, for me, that shot was one of the turning points. The biggest thing for me, the last round was first tee shot.
Right.
I mean, I piped the second shot, but that shot kind of made me feel like, okay, wherever I hit it, I can get it up and down, or I can hit good shots.
Right. Yeah.
And then I don't know if you remember, but my next big shot, and it was one that I remember getting on the tee on 9, par 3, really difficult hole there.
Hard hole.
Back right pin. And you just said, Mike, it's 7-iron, just hit your stock shot, just aim at that bunker and hit it. And you were so good at that with me, with doing a couple of things. One, giving me the shot, keeping me with the shots I knew how to hit. And 2, keeping me my tempo up, because we used to have do you remember what we used to say?
Slow, short, and smooth.
Right. Now, was my swing slow, short, and smooth. No, but again, for all of you out there, you need to find triggers. You need to find something that says, okay, under pressure, you say something and it triggers some type of physiological feel for what you're trying to do. And you got to try it under pressure and see if it works. And it worked for me. And so what Mark would do, I'm sure, anytime he saw me getting a little off, it was, okay, Mike, short, slow, and smooth. I make a practice swing, and it was awesome.
Yeah.
And so, you know, then we make a couple. We go around, we bury that, and then we bogey 10 and 11 for weird reasons, and then 12. I hit maybe the longest tee shot of my life, next to 18 the last round, and I'm 80 some odd yards into the green. I can't get within 70 yards of that now, but I hit it about 15 feet above the hole.
Yep.
You remember what?
Well, yeah, you hit it above the hole, and I read your putts for you. I've always read your putts for you. And you walked up there, and I started to go toward the green, and you just looked at me and said, "I've got this," and you made it.
And you know, again, that's it, because that put me back to a 2-shot lead.
Yeah.
And so let's just, since people get bored with this, but let's move ahead. 16 was a par 3. That was another big shot for me. And folks, it's interesting. I can remember what the swing felt like. I remember I hit a 7-iron. I remember where the pin was. I remember the shot I hit. I remember the putt I made. It's incredible how, when you're really into something and you're not distracted, what it does to your memory. But do you remember that iron shot?
It was beautiful. Nice.
And again, Mark said, well, look, you've hit this club on this hole every day. Let's just hit it again. You don't have to do anything special. The next shot was probably on 18.
Yeah.
I got a 2-shot lead on 18.
Yep. You walk up and pull 3-wood out of the bag. And I said, "What are you doing? You haven't missed, other than one drive on the 1-on-4, you haven't missed any drive all day. So you hit driver."
So I took the driver out, and I hit it down there like 90 yards from the front edge of the green. Front edge, I didn't hit a very good wedge shot. I'm not saying I choked. I still at that point didn't really think. I mean, you're playing, but I'm not thinking about winning. I'm just playing. Front edge, and Mark said, "Well, don't get too close to that edge over there. Putt it out in the middle, 2-putt from there, and we win." So I putted it out, pin high, 10 feet, putted it down there, and I had it about, I don't know, what?
6 inches.
6 inches. And that's when I all of a sudden said, "I'm going to win this thing." And I was like, I wasn't shaken, but it was like this out-of-body experience.
There was this big pause there.
Well, I stopped, and I'm thinking, I'm going to win this tournament. I mean, this is the biggest thing in my life for sure. It wasn't even close. And I managed to tap it in. And so that started me down the road of really believing I could play.
Yep.
And we did a lot of tournaments after that. But the next big little thing I want to talk to you about is I qualified in 82 for the U.S. Open at Pebble Beach. Didn't play too well. And at 86, and it was, I had to get Mark back on the bag.
Yeah, I hadn't been there for a while. 82, my brother was getting married, so I couldn't go to Pebble with you. But 86 at Shinnecock, I mean, when you called me and asked me to come, that was going. I mean, it was.
And it was like home base again. So Mark came, and we played really well the first 2 rounds, made the cut pretty easily. Actually was in pretty good shape, and made a couple of mistakes.
In the 3rd round, yeah.
3rd round. But overall, that was another time when you on the bag, and it was the same keys. I'd kind of started to get my swing back, because it had really gone away. I've been trying and working on different swings, and I always used to come to you and say, "Mark, what looks different? What looked the same?" And you'd go, "Well, something, yeah, your temp, something's a little off." And it was me trying to make swings and having to do all kinds of compensations. And I kind of got back into some old ideas there, and we ended up doing really well. And I got to tell you, thanks for that, because doing that well in that U.S. Open, even though it was in 86, it was kind of the end of my career. I mean, because I'd been hurt and I'd had a lot of things, but you were involved in that, and I just appreciate it.
I thank you for giving me the opportunity to go. I mean, we had a great time, other than my ankle.
Well, we got to talk about this. So here I've got my caddy, right? So we're playing, there's a practice round, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was coming off the 13th tee.
13th tee practice round. My freaking caddy turns and severely sprains his ankle. We're in the hospital all night, and he caddies for the whole tournament with a boot on. So that was.
Yeah, we didn't tell anybody. We just went out.
We just went out, and in golf, Mark, from me to you, the relationships and the things you did for me and just being involved. And now, so what are we going to do this week? So here we are, Riverside, 50 years later. I called you out of retirement. Can you make it? Can you make it 36 or 54
I can do that.
holes?
Like I said, I work out every day. I'm still doing that. My wife and I walk, and she's still around, still there. She actually is the one that likes to walk, and we get out and do about 4.5 miles every morning.
Well, that's awesome. So I'm probably more convinced that you're going to make it than I.
No, I think.
Now, folks, what do you think? We're going to wear the wig. We're going to put the wig on. I'm going to go out there and play, and I'm going to use this. I'm going to play with this until I make a bogey. Now, if I don't make a bogey and I do really well, I may start wearing this all the time. But I can't believe again that I actually dealt with this.
I think it was a little more to the side. I mean,
yeah, it was. Well, I can turn it.
It was a little more to the side, and it was a little bit wispier. I mean, it was
a little more up here.
Yeah, a little more ducktail at the back.
Little more flipped back here. Yeah, okay, well, whatever.
A little blonder. It was a little bit blonder.
Little blonder. Well, whatever. Okay.
But it was, and just, I mean, that last round, you're wearing all white.
I'm wearing all white on Saturday. So I'm warning you.
Okay.
All white on Saturday, white belt, white shoes, white glove, white everything. And now I didn't wear a hat then, so I'm not sure. I may start out without one, but.
Yeah, okay. Well, but thanks for the opportunity to come back. Kind of a last thing for me. I mean, retired as a superintendent and worked my way through. I spent 35 years working in golf, actually 35 full-time years, not counting the seasonal years before at Nibley, and then going back to Hidden Valley and working there just as somebody mowing for the superintendent for 5 years after I retired. It was in my blood. It was something I enjoyed doing.
Well, it's who you are, and you did such a good job. I remember how good a shape when Nibley, you always had that, Mountaindale, and all we did to try to enhance that golf course and make it a better place for the city and for the people playing. And I know that's always been, I mean, I've been around you enough and a lot to watch and listen. I mean, those golf courses weren't golf courses. They were like your baby.
They still are. I mean, I still play Mountaindale every Thursday.
See.
So I go back and do that and enjoy it. And, it's quite an experience. I mean, we expanded it in 1988 and took it from 18 holes to 36 holes. So it was a big thing for me to go through and do that. And then I spent another 18 years after that, staying as a superintendent. It's still home to me. Nibley's actually home to me.
Well, Nibley is too. We went there today. And I mean, I go there every time I come in town. I go there. And you know what I was upset about? They don't have those chocolate donuts in there anymore. I don't know. I should have stock in that company.
Yeah, well, Jimmy used to keep them there. I mean, always.
Yeah. But yeah, it's all, and folks, all of you out there, if you're not from Utah golf is incredible. I mean, the golf courses, the condition of the golf courses, and the price is incredible. So again, make sure you go to malaskagolf.com, 50% off this entire month on an annual subscription. And then we're also giving away a full set of clubs and irons, driver, putter, wedges, everything, the bag, shoes, and a 1 hour Zoom lesson with me. So that's a great, I mean, that's quite the deal. So make sure you look at the description below, make sure you do what you need to do, get involved. Now we're going to kind of reset the stage here. I'm going to answer a couple more questions. But again, Mark, thank you from the bottom of my heart for who you are, who you've been to me, all you guys, Nibley, everything, because you really, if it wasn't have been for you, I wouldn't be sitting here today.
Well, thank you. And, it's been great knowing you. You've been a great friend for a long time.
I'm going to start crying.
Keep going.
Okay.
Keep going. Keep play well this week. And
we'll
see you on Friday.
It's going to be your fault.
Yeah.
I got to tell you one more thing. I will not read a putt this week. This guy is Mr. Level Eyes. So that's one thing when I was playing, maybe it was good and bad. I basically let him read all the putts because he never misread them. So I just got up. I knew I was going to hit it. I knew the read was right, so I made it. So we're going to see how good you are.
Yep.
See if your eyes are still
testing again during the pro-am.
Yeah, you did a good job. You didn't misread any of them. So I'm going to trust you at least for a few holes.
Okay, great.
All right. Thanks again,
Mark.
Okay. Okay, we're going to set up this a little different so I can answer a couple more questions. All right.
All right, here we go. John Poppins. When you look at a swing for the first time, what are the signs when a player is fighting momentum versus using momentum?
The question comes from John Pappas, and he wants to know, when I watch a swing for the first time, how can I tell, or how can I tell if they're fighting momentum or if they're actually using the momentum of the club? Well, when I watch golf swings, I'm a little different than most people. I watch circles of force. So what I watch is the club head is in one circle, the hands are in another circle, and the body is in another. Now there's a connection or a sequence where those circles, when those circles are working, the swing looks effortless. If any one of those three circles is off to some degree, then they start fighting the momentum of the club. And knowing how those circles of force move, if the club's not in the right one, the hands and the body, if they're a little off, then the tension level gets dramatic because you're having to compensate and do something to catch the club up. So I used to have Jim Flick, a mentor of mine, he used to always tell me, get the tension out of this guy's arms. Well, I would tell him, I'd say, well, Jim, if I take the tension out of his arms, the swing will look better, but he'll miss the ball because the tension's there because he's anticipating what he's going to have to do to get the club on the ball. So tension is something that for most people is a savior because they're anticipating what they're going to have to do because they're fighting the momentum of the club. So I watch how those circles work. So I'm very different because of my background with anatomy, physiology, and how joints move. I kind of watch how those things mesh out. And if they don't, I find the one that's the most, and then, so that's kind of what I'm looking at.
This one comes from Gail Rauschenberg. Mike, what do you think of the Mo Norman single-axis golf swing format?
The question is about Mo Norman, and what do I think? It's from Gail. It wants to know, what do I think about this? They call it single-axis Mo Norman's natural golf. Well, there's a lot of there's a lot of ways to swing a golf club. And I actually got to see Mo hit balls. He actually put on a private clinic for me at the finals of the tour school at Greenleaf. He was out looking for one of his players he was trying to find, and I was on the range hitting balls, and he comes out, and Mo was really interesting. You know, he talked in doubles. He said, oh, can I see your clubs? Can I see your clubs? You know, so that's just kind of what he was. And he set up to the first ball, and he sets up, and he puts the club about 2 feet behind the ball, and he turns back and poof, and he just piped it. Okay, so a lot of what he did that was really good is he was very stable with his lower body, and he used to talk about your feet. You know, you want your feet to stay on the ground, roll and roll. You didn't want your hips moving all over the place. And he was also big about starting the club behind the ball because he believed that the first 2 feet was where most people made the mistake. So he'd set it where it was supposed to be here, and then all he had to do was turn up and turn right back. Now, the way his hands worked and the way his club face worked was very similar to a lot of the things that I'm teaching now. Now, Mo didn't hit it a long ways. He was adequate at that time, but didn't really hit it a long ways. And so some of the things he does helps you hit it a lot straighter, but to some degree, you can tend to hit a little shorter. So, you know, it doesn't hurt to try stuff. Believe me, I've tried it. I've played for a couple of weeks with that whole concept. So it just didn't fit. I lost too much distance, and a couple of things happened, and it just didn't fit who I was. So, but it's you know, it's been around. Mo was really good at it, so it might work for you.
Call him back in there.
Mark.
We got a question for Mark, actually. Can we get some tips from Mark on reading greens?
Oh. So how do you levelize? How do you read greens?
Well, I think mine starts with my feet. I can
Okay.
feel the slope in the greens with my feet.
Okay.
And then I can look at it, look at the flagstick. I mean, I used to plumb bob greens. Still do. I know
Okay.
a lot of people don't do that now. There's all these new reading systems. But for me, it was just the feel with the feet, and then kind of walk around, get the slopes in your mind, and then just go from there. Trust your read.
And so the plumb bob was just giving you a relevance to level.
Right. That was all it was about. So if you can do that and feel which way it is, and then obviously you need to know what you're trying to do with the putter too. And with you and I, for the first little while when I was caddying for you, you had one thing in mind on speed of the putt going in, and I had another thing in mind on the speed of the putt.
Right.
So you got to get that down on what the speed's going to be on playing how much break. Because if you hit it firmer than I think you're going to hit it, it's going to not break as much or more. I mean,
that's
even with the guys yesterday in the Pro-Am.
Oh
Because
yeah.
I had a lot, after I started reading them for you, they asked me to come read them. And that was one of the things I was talking to particularly one individual about, is the speed, because he hit it a lot softer than I would envision.
Right.
When we made that adjustment, he made a lot of good putts later.
No, he did.
So.
Your feet tell you a lot. I mean, if you stand over a putt, it's why you see these people now, and the ball's here and the hole's there, and they walk up and they straddle the line and they stand there. A lot of them close their eyes, because what they're trying to do is they're trying to feel, is it leaning them one way or another? And there's even a thing that they use where they use the club in their center, and they stand and then they kind of look where the club is tilted, and it tells them what the slope of the ground is. So walking, I've always felt like you always want to walk the putt off. You mark it, you want to walk from here to there, and then you walk back. And like you say, for me, it's always, I can feel uphill, downhill, a little side hill. And then you got to get to the point where you try different methods, and then you got to trust what you see.
That's right.
That's why I'm looking forward to playing here, because I'm not going to read a putt. And so if I miss, it's not my fault, Mark. It's yours.
Like 10 at Ogden the final round.
Yeah. Well, you got a little fooled on that one. It wasn't me.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, next question from Brian Fennelly. Can you talk about how your left arm works in the downswing while your shoulders remain closed? It's difficult to not allow the left shoulder to open up too soon. How do you think about that?
What was the name again?
Brian Fennelly.
Okay, Brian wants to know, relative to the left arm in the downswing, how do you get the left arm to go without getting your left shoulder open up too much, too soon? Well, first thing you got to understand, if you watch my left shoulder, so when I go back, when I change directions, what are my shoulders doing? My left shoulder's actually moving up. So the first move is not for my shoulders to go this way, because when I change directions, this shoulder moves up and this shoulder moves down. That's why my chest, if you look at all really good players, they get here, when they change directions, this right shoulder goes down and down and the left shoulder goes up. So they're almost maintaining this angle as they start down. Then once the club gets right about in here and the left shoulder, then it goes. Where you get in trouble with the left arm, if you try to pull with your left arm. So as soon as you try to pull and you do this, yeah, you're dead. What the tour players mean by pull is they get up here, when they change directions, they pull the handle this way. So they're going this way. So when they pull, this is going this way and that's going that way. So your shoulders stay turned and your left arm gets right into here before everything opens up. So the reality of your left shoulder, the first move is it doesn't open. It actually, if you watch my left shoulder, when I change directions, what does my left shoulder do? It doesn't open, it actually moves up a little bit. And that's what people need to understand. The transition causes that shoulder action, which causes your arms to drop.
Ted V, what are the key elements of performing the L-to-L swing drill?
From Ted V, what are the key elements of performing the L-to-L drill? Well, first, making sure that you understand how this works. It's what I call the look cool drill. So if you see what's happening here, this is key in a golf swing. It's key in serving a tennis ball. It's key in anything you're trying to accelerate, because it's this lever system. I used to call it the look cool drill, but if you watch what this handle does, it points down and then it points down again. Now, whether I'm swinging with my left hand or my right hand, see, it's pointing down and down. Now, people look at that and they say, well, that looks really flippy. Well, relative to what you see on TV, yeah, it is flippy. What's not moving? My body's not moving. If I start moving my body and feel like I'm doing the same thing, it doesn't even look the same. So the first is getting to understand of what this lever system is. The second, making sure your grip's correct, so as you let the club swing back, your wrist hinge correctly and they rehinge correctly over here. Now, in my opinion, hitting balls off a tee and being able to go hinge, hit, and hold, just that much swing. Now, my body's moving, just not that much, and I'm getting that angle here, and then you start doing that with making the ball curve. If you can't do that drill correctly, and it doesn't take a lot of tension. I mean, when I get here, when I swing the club, there's no tension It's very simple to do. And then you control the face. That's, in my opinion, one of the best drills, and that was a Joe Nichols drill. Again, make sure, Malaska Golf, this whole month, 50% off for an annual membership. Plus, we're giving away a whole set of golf clubs, a bag, shoes, and a lesson with me. So, I mean, that's a value. You got to go on. You got to be a part of that. Look in the description below. Make sure you get signed up for that.
This next question comes from Adam C. Can you talk about drills you can do to feel your path?
Adam C. wants to know drills you can do to feel your path. Well, here's what I always used to do. Depending on the path I wanted, and you'll see tour players doing this. They take water bottles. I'm going to get out of the picture here for just a minute. I didn't know I was going to get, so I'm going to get it. So, depending on your path you want, you get a water bottle and you fill it about a fourth full with water so it stands up. You put it down. Now, let's say you're working on your backswing. So you want your path to go here. So you don't want to be sucking it inside. So you put the water bottle. So if you pull it inside, you clip the bottle. If you're working on your downswing path, you can put the bottle. So you want the path to come inside here. So you make your backswing. You go outside the bottle and then you come inside the bottle. You can move the bottle up in front. And you can say, okay, now I'm going to hit the ball and I got to miss the bottle on the follow through. Or you can go the other side. So you say you got to make a swing and you got to hit and miss the bottle on the other side. So when you're working on path, you use obstacles, use tees, use water bottles, use head covers. Don't use something really hard. I mean, don't use a stick of wood or something. I guess getting hurt real bad might be a motivator. But put an obstacle down. I used to put tees in the ground. I put 2 tees and 2 tees. Then I just stand there and I just make swings through the tees. So my path had to be good. And then I'd tee a ball up in the middle of the tees and see if I could make the same path and hit the ball. So obstacles are immediate feedback. You need immediate feedback. So let's just have fun with that. I know it's going to help you.
From C Church, Mike, it was great meeting you today. Can you talk about improving the mental aspects of the game?
This question comes from C Church, and he wants to know about the mental aspects of the game. Well, probably the hardest thing in golf and what's the most important is how you perceive or how you deal with what happens. I wrote a book called I Feel Your Pain. And I had a great teacher, Joe Nichols, who gave me probably the best lesson I've ever had relative to the mental side of golf. First of all, you have to understand that whatever you shoot is not a reflection on who you are as a person or as a player. You're just out there learning. You know, it's just a process. So some days are better than others. And the bad days are the best days to really get a hold of your mental concentration. Because the same mental discipline it takes to turn your worst round into a little bit better is the same mental discipline it takes to turn your best round with 2 holes to play and the wheels are coming off to keep it going. Now, Joe Nichols basically did this to me. He took me out on a golf course. He had me, I'd hit shots. I'd hit my normal tee shot. He'd put me in trouble and I didn't hit it there. And I tried to get it up and down. And I went 9 holes. And I mean, he put me in spots I would never hit it. And at the end of 9 holes, he told me, he asked me, if you would have hit the ball in the positions I hit you in or put you in, what score would you have shot? And I said, well, that's ridiculous. I'd have quit after. That was terrible. He says, that's why you struggle with golf. So here's what I mean by that relative to the mental approach. You have to pick a shot. You're on the first tee. You stand there. You see the shot you want to hit. You make some practice swing, a rehearsal, get it in your mind, set up, go. Now, the minute you hit the ball, you learn from it, but all you have is another situation with another set of circumstances that you're going to go out there and you're going to see what you've got left. You take it on as a personal challenge. Let's see what I can do with this. You go through the same process. You hit the ball. Boom. You react to it. It was good, bad. What did I learn from it? And then you go to another shot. So golf is nothing more than a bunch of different situations. And if you deal with it that way and you don't take it personal that you hit the ball there, it's incredible how much better you're going to play. I've been around Nicholas a lot for 35 years. How you process information is a huge deal in how good you're ever going to be relative to your potential. Nicholas's process and how he perceives things is phenomenal. He's never down on himself. He doesn't necessarily, if he hits a bad shot, it's just a shot. Okay, let me hit another one. In fact, if he hits a bad shot, he's more confident that the next one's going to be good. What do the rest of us do? We hit a bad shot, the next one we're going, oh, I hope I don't do that again. So that whole thing about hit a shot, it's just another challenge. How good can I do this challenge? What can I do with it? If you look at golf that way and understand it's not your identity, you're going to have a lot better chance of playing really well.
From Andrew Maycock, Mike, what's the strangest feel a student ever told you they had gotten them to make the motions you wanted them to make?
Andrew, what's the strangest feel a student's ever given me? I don't think I can repeat it. It had to do with physical anatomy, and it had to, so I'm not going to go there. I've had people tell me all kinds of things. But here's the deal about what somebody feels. I spent my early career in physiology, and I learned that. And I was going to be the best teacher in the history of golf because I learned muscle firing patterns. I learned all that stuff, which is what you're seeing right now. The problem was, even though I knew exactly what was happening and I was teaching glute contractions, all this different stuff, scapular loading, even though I knew what was happening, the people that I was teaching that to actually got worse. Very few got better. And then all of a sudden one day I got a student out there and I just took a hole, I got them moving correctly and they hit a couple of shots. I said, what'd you feel like when you hit that shot? And they gave me an answer that had absolutely no relevance to what was actually happening. In fact, 99.99% of this, what you feel like you're doing and what you're actually doing aren't even close. So what I learned is that people are going to feel different things. I can get pretty much anybody to make the swing they want to make, that I want them to make for them. The key is, can they identify the difference in the feel? I don't care what it is. They might feel it in their feet, their knees, they might feel it in their shoulders, they might feel what their head's doing, or they might feel it in their hand. It doesn't matter. What matters is they can feel the difference when they're headed the right direction. If you can do that, you got a good chance of getting a lot better. In the live casts, is we're going to be doing a lot where the members can actually come on and ask questions. To me, that's a huge benefit for you, and it's also really good for me because I get to learn more about what you're thinking. But again, you're going to have to be a member to get access to these live casts and ask those live questions. So it's another benefit for people who are involved with our site. Look forward to it. And I know it's going to help you, because asking the questions not only helps you, it probably helps 10,000, 5,000, whoever, 500, 2, 4, whatever other people out there that have the same question that you have.
Okay, how does the right arm rotate in the backswing relative to setup? Is your right arm just folding up, or does it rotate away from the body? Sometimes it is hard to see in video. From Lee Scarback.
Okay. Luis?
Lee.
From Lee. Lee wants to know, how does your right arm rotate in the backswing? So what's it actually doing? Okay, well, let's talk about joints for a minute. So when I take the club away, if I'm just isolating my right arm and I go to the top of my swing, which was right there, which I don't like the top, where the club transitions, what happens is, as I start back, my wrist hinges, then my elbow starts to fold, and there's a little bit of rotation in your elbow. Your elbow actually has the ability, it's a hinge joint, but it can rotate a little. So there's a little rotation right here in your lower arm, not much. You can see where the face is. So I start the face here, it's done that. My elbow's starting to fold. Now here's what happens. From here to the top of my swing, the rotation comes in my shoulder socket. So my right arm is externally rotating in my shoulder socket. So now the club face doesn't look close. Now if my arm doesn't rotate in the shoulder socket, all of a sudden the club starts doing weird stuff. So my arm is rotating in my shoulder socket. This is a ball and socket joint. So you want most of the rotation to come in your shoulder socket. That's why it's important for your shoulders and your arms to be relaxed, because if they're tight and you get here, there's no way for this to rotate. So then you start rotating things that don't need to rotate. So that's how it actually works. You see what my arm's doing here? So it looks like my forearm's rotating. It isn't. My forearm's not doing anything. What's rotating? My arm and my shoulder socket. So if I did that and I just turned, I mean, that's where my arm is at the top. So that's how I get a lot of people. I get them set up, then I have them rotate, externally rotate this arm, and then I just have them turn and they're here. And then they feel how that arm and that shoulder socket works. Next.
This one comes from Tom Schaefer. Mike, is there a simple way to ensure that I don't early release and avoid the dreaded chicken wing on the follow-through? I've tried a lot of drills, but nothing seems to stick.
Okay, this question, again, first the name?
Tom?
Tom. He wants to avoid early release chicken wing, which this causes this. So you're not going to fix this unless you get this fixed. What causes early release? For most people, their grip is such that when they swing, the club face gets wide open. So as they come down into the ball, they're coming into the ball, the club face is so far open that they have to catch the face up. So as they swing and they get up here, the club face is wide open. They're looking at the ball and they're going, I got to get that club started or I'm going to slice it. So they start it clear back here, catching the club face up. Now, if we get their grip right and their hand action right and they early release, what happens? They duck hook it. And they go, whoa, I don't have to do that anymore. So then all of a sudden, the early release goes away because they're not having to catch the face up. Once that happens, and you don't have to catch the face up, then as you push away, the club releases out in front of you and the chicken wing goes away. So they're related items. You sure?
Okay. B. Ross. Mike, congratulations on all your teaching accomplishments. Can you chat about your influences from Jim Flick?
So B. Ross wants to know about how Jim Flick influenced me. Well, first of all, he gave me the opportunity to be a part of Nicholas Flick. Jack got me involved. Jack introduced me to Jim, and because I was a fitness guy at the time with Nicholas wanted fitness in the golf schools, and so he basically told Jim, Mike's doing the fitness, which it didn't start out really great, but Jim and I got to know each other really well, and here's the biggest thing I learned in about 15, 16 years of being around Jim. This guy was so committed to every student in front of him. He made every student feel like they had his 110% attention, commitment to their game. But forget swing theories or ideas. We went back and forth with stuff. But the thing that he did better than anybody I've ever been around was his total commitment. It didn't matter whether it was a 35 handicapper or beginner or Tom Lehman or Jack Nicklaus. It was everybody he made feel the same. And he made them feel, when they did what they were supposed to, he made them feel good about themselves. And he liked to make it fun. So he was really big into, kidding around. He used to tell me, you have to learn how to politely insult people so they're not quite sure whether you paid them a compliment or you threw them under the bus. But it was that ability to be committed to anybody, no matter who it was, no matter what time of day, no matter how he felt, no matter if it was his first lesson at the beginning of the day or if it was somebody at the end of the day when he was so tired he couldn't even see straight. That's the biggest thing that he influenced me on.
Zach Thompson, what are your top 5 favorite best swings of all time? Favorite/best?
My best 5 swings of all times. Well, swings. First of all, a perfect or a really good swing is one that duplicates itself under pressure. One of the best duplicating swings I ever saw was, I'm trying to think, oh man, I'm going to forget his name now. And I played with him a couple of times. Calvin Pete, there I got it. Calvin Pete had a broken left arm, so he couldn't straighten his arm. So his swing was a lot of this. And nobody bothered him because he couldn't straighten his arm. But he learned how to play with that action, and he was really, he hit it straighter he laid out sprinkling systems. It was incredible how solid and how great he hit it. So when you say the best 5, I mean, I don't know, best swings. If you're talking about technically that look the best, you know, Tom Weiskopf would be one of the first ones relative to what I knew about golf. And then you've had Tiger at certain times in his career. You know, there's a number of players out there right now. Oberg, Ludwig Oberg. There's a lot of really good swings. Nicholas, Jack, I've been around him a lot. I know a lot about his swing. I know him physically. His swing, instinctively, he learned what he needed to do, what he could do physically to make it as repeatable and as powerful as he could. So that was incredible. I got to see Hogan one day hit balls for a short period of time. That was one of the most impressive things I've ever seen. Now, extremely difficult to duplicate, but when you watched it, it was like poetry in motion. It was incredible. Ernie Els, from a tempo perspective, has probably had one of the best swings we've ever seen for people to watch. Now, another swing that really impressed me was Annika, because Annika simplified down what was going with the body and the rotation and how things work together. And I mean, she had a decent career too. So, and now this day and age, there's so many young players on the women's tour and the men's tour that just have spectacular golf swings. So there's a lot of them out there.
So Mike Witkowski, Mike, it seems when I set my wrists early, I lose distance compared to setting as I bring the club back. Am I doing something wrong?
What was it, Mike?
Yes.
Okay, Mike says when he sets his wrists early, he tends to lose distance instead of setting his wrist as he swings back. What am I doing wrong? Okay, well, what happens is when people start setting their wrists early, they set their wrists early and then they just pick the club straight up. So as I set my wrist early, what I'm doing is I'm taking the handle, and the early wrist set, it pushes the handle, pushes this back away from me. So width in a golf swing is how far the handle is from your center, not how far the club head is from your center. So now if I hinge my wrist early, but I do this, see, this is really narrow. But if I hinge my wrist early and I push the handle of the club away from me, you're not going to lose distance, I can promise you. So that's probably what's happening is because you're hinging your wrist early, you're also picking the club up, and this gets really narrow.
All right. From driving range key, surely the secret of golf is that the club head goes faster than the handle at impact, correct?
That's correct. A lot of people don't think that. The question was, does the club head go faster than the handle through impact? Yes, it does. The handle actually starts to, right in here, the handle actually starts to slow down and goes around to the left as the club head speeds up. It's like snapping a towel, or it's like having a ball on the end of a string and you're swinging the ball like this. Now, here's what most people do. They take the club back and they come down and they do this, okay? So what happens is the handle and the club head keep going the same speed. So there's no speed. It's like if I was going to snap a towel and hit you, and I went like this and I just kept going and my hand and the towel went at the same speed, it wouldn't create much speed. All right, so you've got to have that snap. So that snap, like serving a tennis ball, is like this. It comes down, the handle comes here, and then right there, the handle, I actually have people hold on to the handle with this finger, and I have them go back and swing down, and then right through impact, I have them pull the handle back, which throws the club head forward and accelerates it. That's a really important feeling as opposed to dragging the handle. I mean, this stuff, which most people do, they hit and drag. That's why you don't hit the ball very far. There's got to be a pivoting action of the handle of the club.
Scott Nichols, how do you look full drill and not flick or cast?
Scott Nichols wants to know, on the look cool drill, how do I do it and not cast or flip? Well, first of all, flip in my mind is this, it's twist. When I do the look cool drill, the club face, my right hand's going from right here to right there. So the club face, when I'm doing this, isn't twisting. That's what I call flip. All right, so the club is doing this. Now, how do I keep from casting? Well, it's the weight of the club head that's going to make my wrist unhinge. So I'm standing here. What's my wrist doing? It's not going to do anything because the weight of the club right there is over my wrist, so my wrist's not doing anything. Now, as my arm starts to swing forward, watch what happens. As soon as that club head gets outside my hand, the momentum of the club drops the club. So that makes it be perfect timing. That's what Iron Byron does, the machine that they test golf balls with. It's an arm, it's a socket on an arm. They take the arm back, they load the club, and then they just swing the arm. And what happens is the momentum and the weight of the club makes the club unhinge at exactly the right time every time. And that's kind of what you want your swings to turn into, is more like an Iron Byron, where the momentum of the club's doing the work rather than you trying to force it to do it.
So we have Zach Justice. Mike, love your approach to teaching golf. What do you do with your left arm on the backswing?
Zach wants to know, what do I do with my left arm on the backswing? You know, I've really simple. I mean, this game, for me, really early on, I heard an explanation of the golf swing. I read it in a book from Sam Snead. And a lot of the old players. And here's what they felt like. On the backswing, as their left arm swung back, their left arm swung right up and right between the shoulder and the ear. So they'd swing their left arm up here, it'd swing down, and then the right arm would swing up on the other side. So, I mean, it kind of made sense to me, because when I swing a baseball bat, I'm going from here to here. So this arm's right there, and then it goes around here. So I took that down here, and I went there, and that's kind of simplifying down, or that's kind of what I do. My left arm, over my career, I've used my left hand to set the club. I've let it swing back. You know, now I kind of toss the club head back. I get set, and I kind of go forward, and then I toss the club head back with my right hand, and my left wrist just hinges, and I feel my left arm, it swings right up between my right shoulder and my left ear. So it swings up, and then it swings right back down, what looks to me to be on the same line.
Trip width. Mike, I'm feeling bad tendonitis in my knee shoulder for 2 months. Have you ever dealt with that? Do you have any tips on that?
Knee?
The left shoulder, the lead shoulder.
Oh, the lead shoulder. So tendonitis in the lead shoulder. All right. What starts to happen anytime you have tension in your left arm, and you go back and you start down and there's still tension here, and this arm becomes a battering ram, and the weight of the club throws force back up this way. If this shoulder socket's really tight and this arm's tight, where this arm can't relax and this arm can't rotate and fold, then it's like a battering ram. So it creates pressure on those tendons, and they get inflamed, and then there's your tendonitis. So tendonitis is overuse or missing its lactic acid buildup, and it's probably from that. So that's one of the most important things, is you got to make sure that when you're swinging the club, that your left arm, you see what my arm's doing here? My left arm, so when my body goes, my arms just react and they're loose so they can go, and there's no pressure in my shoulder. Again, everybody, make sure you go to MalaskaGolf.com. 50% off all this month for this 50-year anniversary for me of winning the Utah Open. And we're going to give away, so it's 50% off on an annual membership. For all the members, we're giving away a set of clubs, a bag, everything, shoes, and a lesson with me. So make sure you look in the description below. Make sure you get set up for that, because that's an unbelievable, that's worth the effort just to try that. And then let's wrap this up. Javier, do we have another question?
We have plenty. I'm just trying to.
While Javier's getting this question, again, this game is incredible. I mean, look, you've been watching, as you've been watching this podcast or this live video cast, you're looking at that mountain, and you're seeing the sunset, and you're seeing the colors and the green and all that stuff. I mean, how can you not like being out here? I mean, enjoy every time you go out on a golf course. You're out in nature. You're challenged with the shots. Yeah, you're going to have some good days. You're going to get upset. Everybody does. But try to put it into perspective. I mean, that's a big goal for me the rest of this next part of playing is to put it a lot more in even a better perspective than I had towards the end of my career. I'm always trying to get better. I'm always trying to learn. I try to get to be a better player. Now, an interesting thing, years ago, Paul Azinger asked Arnold Palmer, he was on the range at Bay Hill hitting balls. This is a couple of years before he died. And he went up to Palmer and he asked him, he says, Arnold, what are you doing out here? Palmer said, well, I'm practicing. Azinger said, why? Well, I'm trying to get better. I'm working on my game. He says, well, Arnold, you're never going to be as good as you were. And Palmer, being Palmer, his eyes, he said, you're right. I'm not trying to get as good as I was. I'm never going to be as good as I was, but I can damn sure be a lot better than I was yesterday. That's profound. That's why we do this. That's what I'm doing. I'm going out here to play to see what am I under pressure? What am I doing right now with my game now? Hopefully this will help me get even better with what my game is today, not what it was when I was 22, 23. This golf course, I mean, the clubs that I used to hit in and where I am now, it's not even in the same world. It's not even worth talking about anymore. So this is a new world for me. It's a new game.
How about 3 more? You got 3 more in you?
3 more questions. Okay, because we're on, we'll do them.
All right, here we go. Neil Johnson, Mike, no matter where I put the ball in my stance, I seem to hit behind it. If I move it back in the stance, then I tend to hook it with a little cleaner contact. And he puts the ball.
The question is, no matter where I put the ball in my stance, I tend to hit behind it. Okay, here's what happens. It's a reflex to hit the ball. So what I mean by that is the reason you hit behind it, no matter where you put it in your stance, is because you make a swing and you go to start down and you're trying to help the club to the ball. You're not letting the momentum of the club drop the club head onto the ball. Because I can tell you, if your wrists are relaxed and you swing, the momentum of the club is going to straighten you out. Unless you come out one day and gravity's gone. So if you drop a club and it floats up into the atmosphere out of play, then you're going to have to help it. But what it tells me, no matter where you put it, you hit behind it, and a little better when it's way back. That's only because you're so steep that even if you let it go early. So what you want to do is you want to just set the club just above the ground, make a swing, and just let the weight of the club naturally unhinge your wrists. And wherever it naturally unhinges your wrists and brushes the ground, put the ball about an inch or two behind that spot and then make a swing. And if you hit behind it, it's because you helped it. You didn't let the weight of the club do it for you. There is no down in my swing when I swing. I get up here and I start this way. I feel like I'm swinging more level. It's the momentum and the weight of the club that takes the club down to the ground. I'm not trying to help it. It's going down. I'm just aiming it.
Alan Kraft, what adjustments do you make when hitting an iron from the rough?
Okay, we just did a video on some of this. This is from Alan. What adjustments do I make hitting an iron from the rough? Depends on the lie in the rough. Now, if the rough's fairly deep, but the ball's sitting high in the grass, it's not totally submerged or it's barely below the grass, I'll make a practice swing and see if I just brush the grass, if the club goes through it. If it does, then I don't try to hit. I just try to sweep the thing right out of the top of the rough. Now, when I look at the lie and I make a practice swing, if the grass is catching my club, all right, now you've got to get the ball either further back in your stance. You've got to do something to get the club coming steeper into the ball so less grass gets between the club face and the ball. The biggest mistake most people make in the rough is they really don't do anything with their swing and they just try to swing harder and they usually get even shallower and they take way too much grass to the ball. So you have to be a little more vertical. I change my setup. I change like I'm going to hit a bunker shot and my swing then gets a little more up and down so it doesn't catch as much of the grass.
All right, you want the last one?
Yeah, sure.
All right, here we go. Should we go Joe Nichols type question?
That's fine, whatever you want.
All right, here we go. Joe Kukic. Joe Nichols said the momentum of the right side left knee against the resistance of the left is what gives you the feeling of bending the shaft and ultimately allows you to be pressing the ball. Any drills to help feel the bending of the shaft?
So the question is, Joe Nichols used to talk about that momentum against resistance. Excuse me, what did he mean? you have the momentum of the club swinging, and then what he wanted was the resistance of the left side, which you came down here and the left side didn't, post up is a bad word, but it basically stopped going laterally, and it stopped and it pushed back, and that momentum going this way and the resistance against that accelerated the club forward. So that's in every sport. That's how you hit a baseball. That's how you do all those things. So that momentum, that resistance in your left side, boom, as you're starting down and all of a sudden you stop going forward and this goes this way, is what ends up throwing the club and really increasing the momentum of the club through the ball. So that's what he meant by momentum against resistance. And what was the other part of the question?
So is there any drills to be feeling that bending of the shaft that occurs from that?
Now, when that happens, when you do this and you're coming into the ball and you're right here and this is pushing back, boom, now you run the club into the ball. And so then and the right arm is right on the back of the shaft, and that's when the shaft starts to, I mean, you hit it and that's where it bends. So can you feel that? You can put the club right on a beam of some sort, and you can stand there and then you can just go into your impact position and feel what it feels like to, anytime somebody pushes on something, they don't do it this way. They push back on this side and it pushes here, and then you start to feel what compression feels like. Boom. You can't compress it if you're sliding this way or if you're coming over doing this. You compress it whether you hit a ball, a golf ball, or a baseball. A good way to practice is just take a stick and take it out to a tree and just stand there and go boom and just hit the tree and feel boom. What happens? Boom. You hit the tree and you'll feel the shaft bend and you'll feel the turning of your body with the swinging of your arms and the stick. Okay, I'll tell you what. This has been really good. We're running out of light. Guys are coming in off the course from the Pro-Am. This has been great. For me, this is a great week, but it should be a great week, and hopefully the information I give spurs you on to play better golf and play golf for a long time. I mean, I don't know what's going to happen. I may go out and play really well, make the cut, do really well. I may not make the cut. Shoot, that's not the point. It's me challenging myself, enjoying the challenge, trying to get better. Everything we've talked about, how to read greens, Mark gave you some ideas about that. The tournaments I played in, what were the mindset, what were the key words? So all those kinds of things can help all of you play better golf. This is a great game. It's not that complicated. You all know, you all have a great swing in you. When you learned as a young kid how to throw and catch and hit, the throw and hit, basically those patterns are golf. And most people that can throw, if you can throw pretty good and you can hit something, you can have a pretty good golf swing. It doesn't have to be all these numbers and everything. That's okay. You want to go there in the science, that's fine. But at the end of the day, how much better is that going to make you as a player? It hurt me. I got really smart and really supposedly understood all this stuff, but as a player, I was worse. So I'm a lot less analytical now, more like I was when I was younger. And I think I'm a better player now from a consistency perspective than I was my whole professional career. I'm just old and a little chubby, and I don't hit it quite as far. Major injuries, but I'm still playing. I still love the game. Okay. We've had a great time. I loved all this. Let's shut it down. We're going to do a lot more of these casts. Remember, these live video casts are going to be only for our members. So you can ask the questions like we've done here tonight. You get a lot of really good answers. You get to see a lot of things. So make sure you go to Malaska Golf. Look at the 50% off this month for an annual membership. Members, chance to win a whole bag of clubs, you know, golf bag, clubs, driver, putter, everything, shoes, and a lesson with me. You almost can't afford not to take the chance. So go to the description below. Make sure you get involved with that. I'm going to have a great time this week. I'm going to enjoy Riverside. You can follow me online. Whatever I do, I do. Listen, the number one first thing that ever happened to me in a major championship, I shot 89 the first round of the U.S. Open at Pebble Beach. Was my first major. And I played really pretty good. I made 7 double bogeys in a row. And it was interesting. There was a media guy there when I came off from our town, and he asked me, he said, how'd you shoot 89? I said, well, I made a heck of a putt on the last hole to break 90. I tell you, my pressure was on to break 90. He says, are you going to play tomorrow? Which I found, what kind of question is that? Well, of course I'm going to play tomorrow. Now, was I down? Sure I was. I'm almost on 90 in the U.S. Open. I mean, how are you going to feel about that? I came out the next day and I'm 4 under after 9 holes. The same holes that I was 14 over or whatever it was. So golf's going to come and go. It's a challenge. Get out there, enjoy. That's what I'm going to do here in this tournament. I can't wait to play and enjoy it. And I love these questions and I love helping you with your games.